You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan.
Welcome back to Where You Live, broadcasting from the Natural Green Lawn and Landscape Studios, brought to you by Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. Before we get into our next topic, I'd like to let all our listeners know we've got a free resource for you. We put together a bi-monthly newsletter called What's New. A lot of what we talk about on the show we cover in further detail. People that are guests on the show are also contributors to the newsletter from time to time. It's yours free. Give us a call during the week at New Concepts, won't you, at 952-922-2500. Ask for Lori. She'll make sure that you start receiving your subscription by mail or electronically. And I'm happy also... I've got to also say this one more time. Folks, we're going to be at the State Fair. It's coming up here pretty soon here. Just 2 weeks away, I believe. So for all of our listeners, if you'd like to come and join us live, it would be great to see you. That'll be on Saturday, the 24th and 31st at our regular time. And then during the week, between the 4 and 5 o'clock hour, Michael Medved has graciously allowed us to have that last hour to be able to broadcast live at the State Fair Monday through Friday, the 26th through the 30th. So we'll be taking phone calls live. It'll be great to see you. It's always a fun experience. Well, let's go on to our next article. And this is something that is coming out of the state of Colorado. Apparently, there is an apartment complex in Douglas County where the renters, the tenants, are being told that they are prohibited from keeping firearms in their apartments by the management company. And I wanted to talk to someone who is an expert, and I'd like to welcome onto the show here, Where You Live, attorney Brian Toder. Hello, Brian.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you with us here on the show. And folks, I want to just tell you a little bit about Brian, too. I met you Brian, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. You were teaching a class on what's needed to be able to have your permit to carry. And it was taken through another friend of mine who had his business associates. He had them all taking the class, and I got to sit in. And it was a great experience. You have quite a love or a passion for teaching that course, don't you?
Well, I do, because just like a lot of guys growing up in northern Minnesota, guns were always a part of our life. We were all hunters, and then for a while I had before I got an honest job on the beach, I used to go to sea where as a ship's master, where I was required to be armed, and in 2003, when the Minnesota Personal Protection Act was passed, I was right away associated with the American Association of Certified Firearms Instructors, and started teaching the first classes for what people call concealed carry. So yes, and to this day I still do a number of when people are denied permits to carry, I work in those areas.
And you've got quite a background here, folks. I just wanted to say a little bit, because Brian's a modest guy, but you received your Juris Doctorate from Hamline University Law School. You have been involved in not only civil litigation, class action litigation, criminal defense, maritime law. You had a role, it says, on the plaintiff's federal trial team in the Exxon Valdez oil spill litigation.
Yeah, that was a very big part of my career. I think I have about 5,000 hours in that. But yes, I was on the trial team for that case in Alaska.
Wow. And how did you from there get to Minneapolis?
Well, I've always been a Minnesota guy, from International Falls. But I went to sea. As an undergraduate, every summer I worked on tramp steamers and got back in time to start Hamline in the fall. And I put 11 years between college and law school, and I ended up becoming a captain on these 200-foot boats operating all over the world in the offshore oil exploration business, including Alaska.
Wow, that's really neat. So 11 years, and that's how you put yourself through school then?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, with all that being said now, Brian, I want to get your opinion on this story. And if I could, we've got a news clip that was done earlier this week, and I think this is by Breitbart News. Go ahead and run the clip.
Two new developments in a controversial story that we brought you here last night. Renters in Castle Rock will not have to disarm to stay in their homes. Douglas County leaders say the apartments in question are public housing, and they didn't give the property manager permission to infringe on individual rights. And now Denver wants to know if this same company is trying to pull similar rogue gun bans in the city.
It upset me very much.
It began with a retired Marine standing his ground, with Art Dorsch telling our Will Ripley he doesn't want to give up his rights to keep his home.
They want to take them all away from me. They say I can't live here.
The gun ban that surprised Dorsch also surprised the Douglas County Housing Partnership, the taxpayer-supported owner of Oakwood Apartments. The Housing Authority, with the support of the Douglas County Commissioners, held an emergency meeting and blocked Ross Management from implementing its gun ban.
That's outrageous.
Gun rights attorney Robert Wareham says Ross Management can't overrule the U.S. and Colorado constitutions when it comes to gun ownership.
Those rights aren't any different than a right not to be discriminated against based on your race or your gender.
Ross Management is exercising its right to remain silent.
We just want to get answers as to why tenants are being told they can't.
The company that manages properties in Aurora, Arvada, Denver, and Greeley as well would not talk about the gun ban via phone or in person. So we still don't know the company's motivation, whether it's a blanket policy or property by property, whether it's motivated by a past incident or politics. The company's owner, Debbie Ross, and her husband have given $9,000 only to Democrats since 2006. What we do know for certain is that the Denver Housing Authority is contacting Ross Management to see if the company is trying to slip in a gun ban at any of its properties in the city. A DHA spokeswoman told me, quote, "It is unconstitutional to prohibit the legal possession of a gun or firearm on public housing property." Public housing gun bans have been challenged in a number of states. In several cases, outright gun bans have been more narrowly tailored, say, to just the common areas after a lawsuit was filed.
Well, that was the clip. Now, and that was from Breitbart TV earlier this week. As is the case in so many TV clips, a lot of times people have surprise journalism, and you don't give anybody a chance to to say that they're coming, and then they're surprised when the door is closed. So I always wonder about some of that sometimes, Brian. But the case is interesting here. Property management company is saying to the tenants, if you are carrying firearms in your home, you can't do that any longer. If not, you've got to get out. Is that something that they can say with authority and ask?
Well, they sure can't say it in Minnesota. I'll tell you, in Colorado and all that, in that case, they were relying on rights that we have under the Constitution, under our rights that they have under the Constitution. Here in Minnesota, we don't have to go that far. We have a statute that's carved in stone. It's Minnesota Statute 1614.714. It's subdivision 17. It's part of the Minnesota Personal Protection Act of 2003. And you know how some people wear both suspenders and a belt? This particular statute in two ways tells you that a landlord absolutely may not interfere with a tenant's lawful possession of firearms in their apartments. First of all, subdivision D says that a lawful possessor of a private residence, they can certainly prohibit firearms, and this is the it says possessor. You notice how they're very careful not to say owner.
Yeah.
But the very next subdivision, part of the subdivision C says, and it's one sentence: a landlord may not restrict the lawful carry or possession of firearms by tenants or their guests. And that's even bigger than you can imagine. it means that a landlord can't tell a tenant, can't write into the contract. In other words, because it's against public policy, he can't write into the contract that a tenant cannot possess guns. Even more broadly, if you are renting space in a building, in a commercial building, for example, and the bank has a sign out there that says they don't want firearms in the bank, but you're going to visit somebody else who's in the same building, the bank, that sign that you see on the door cannot prohibit you from carrying your gun through the bank to the tenant's space, as long as that tenant possessor allows firearms in his or her possession. So this is not a problem that we would ever have to worry about in Minnesota, such that it would actually there'd be constitutional questions involved.
Are there things that are written quite differently in other states?
Well, I suspect so. I mean, obviously in Colorado, you just provide an example of that. Once you start turning to the Constitution, because one of the main tenets of jurisprudence is that the courts are not going to change the Constitution, and as long as there's some other way they can administer justice without getting to that point. Evidently, in Colorado, they don't have that point. They have to go to the Constitution.
Okay. Well, we've got to take a break right now. Brian, could you stay over for one more segment?
I sure could.
That would be great. Folks, we're talking to Attorney Brian Toder about this issue in Douglas County, Colorado, where a property management company is saying to its tenants, we're prohibiting you from being able to carry and hold firearms in your own homes. We're going to talk to Brian more about this, but we've got to take a break. Don't go away. We'll be back after these messages.